Money, prestige, and saving lives. Those are the most common reasons why people want to become doctors. But there are so many other careers out there that give you the exact same benefits for a lot less work. So the question is being a doctor really worth it?
That question depends on a few things that we'll be discussing throughout the duration of this video. Let's start off with the disadvantages first.
Firstly, the tuition for medical school is becoming insanely high. According to some estimates, you'll be looking at spending around $20,000 to $100,000 if you want to attend medical school in North America. And that isn't even adding the cost of living.
Over your 4 years of medical school, you'll be looking at upwards of $400,000 in student debt. And that's not counting the debt that you'll still have from your undergrad years. And since interest rates are going up every single quarter, that amount will just keep going higher and higher.
We interviewed Dr. Mona Amin, a pediatrician based out of Florida. Check out what she says about this.
My husband and I combined had $480,000 of student loan debt. I took on most of that. I had $370,000, and then my husband had $110,000. My entire salary as a pediatrician was going towards my debt. Even though I was in a marriage, yes, I have another income, so it's so great, but it's understanding that I've worked so hard, and now for the last 5 years, my income is going towards paying it off when I really didn't feel like I could find as much joy. And once I paid it off, it really helped find that joy again.
It took her 5 years of her staff physician's salary to pay off all of her debt. That's absurd. She had to spend 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, then 5 years of residency, and then 5 more years paying off her loans. If it's not just the money that's the problem, it's the time you have to sacrifice because of the money you have to pay back.
Next, the rates of burnout in medicine could be another reason. Most doctors are spending about 50 hours per week, but there's also residents and surgeons exceeding 80 hours per week.
After having conversations with many doctors, we found that burnout is due to a variety of factors, but poor work-life balance and a lot of job stress are two of the biggest reasons as to why this phenomenon exists.
A huge aspect of that is on-call hours. In Canada at least, on-call means you're at the hospital for 26 hours at a time. That is 1 full day away from your home and your family. In specialties like internal medicine, you can be on call every 4 days. That means you have to repeat this every 4 days, and you're in this cycle no matter what. This is something that strays people away from medicine a lot because of the inflexibility.
We're not saying you can't maintain a work-life balance as a doctor. You certainly can, but certain specialties are limited in the free time you have, so you may have to make a sacrifice there.
Fortunately, there are ways of dealing with the stress, and many doctors handle the stress really well. However, it's important to acknowledge the fact that we're all human, and that mental health should be a priority. Huge wait times, staff shortages, and serious medical conditions all add up to the stress that doctors are facing, and it seems like it's going to be like this for the foreseeable future.
Hold on, 91.2% of you are not subscribed to the MedBoys channel. Click that button right now so we can continue making these awesome videos. Back to the original video. We talked about the costs associated with medical school. However, the journey to becoming a doctor can be very long, not to mention competitive. Let's talk about Canada, for instance. Here you have to maintain a really high average in university after going through high school, and then be a part of meaningful extracurriculars, do well on the MCAT, then do well on Casper, and then start the application, which means you have to write essays, you have to go through interviews. And even after all of that work, there's no guarantee you're going to get in.
Are you serious right now, bro?
That's because there are hundreds of thousands of people doing the exact same thing just for a few spots in some schools. Some people even take additional years after university to get into medical school, and even after that, the competition isn't over. You have to set up for your residency application, which is just as, if not more competitive.
No, God!
All to call yourself a doctor. So that's why people say you must really enjoy this career if you want to become one.
Of course, it's not all gloomy being a doctor. Let's talk about some of the pros. The first is related to the career itself. You're never quite done with medicine. You're always going to be encountering a complex new medical problem every single day, and you're going to have to keep up with technology that comes out every day to treat those problems. And that's why, if you're someone that loves to learn, you might find the career to be extremely rewarding and challenging at the same time.
Once you actually become a doctor, job security is wonderful. There is always going to be a shortage of physicians, and that's why your job is really needed. As long as you don't lose your license or anything like that, job security is something that will be a staple of this profession. That's also why So many people get their preferred specialty when they apply to residency.
A cliche answer that most people give when they're asked why they want to become a doctor is that they want to help people. That is one thing you will certainly get to do when you become a doctor. You will be able to impact the lives of so many individuals on a highly intimate level, something only a few people will ever get to do.
My clinical experience as a medical student has been extremely limited. However, the time I have spent with patients has been extremely gratifying. Let me tell you about an experience I recently had. So I was going around the wards interviewing patients to practice my history taking. The way that things work is that in the hospital, patients don't really get that many visitors. Because of COVID precautions, they can only have 1 to 2 people, and they're alone for most of the day. So when I was interviewing them, it took around 30 minutes, and I asked everything from lifestyle questions to medical questions to even what do they do for a living. And at the end of this interview, the patient just looked at me, smiled, and thanked me for sitting down with them for this amount of time, and that little gesture made my entire day.
Medicine is a team-oriented profession. You get to work with nurses, physician assistants, techs, and other doctors in order to serve your patients. And what's beautiful about this sort of teamwork is that you get to bounce off other people and rely on them in order to serve your patients. But of course, the biggest advantage of this is not the fact that you can get romantically involved with your colleagues like certain doctors. The medical profession's teamwork is unique because of the fact that people's lives are at stake here, so it makes it all the more important.
We stated these pros and cons for you to make your own decision. For us, we had this conversation with ourselves many years ago, and we decided that we couldn't see ourselves doing anything other than medicine, even with its cons.
Just like with anything else in life, there are pros and cons. But for medicine, I feel like the pros outweigh the cons, even though I acknowledge that there are valid problems in medicine. And that's why I want to become a doctor.
We'll make a whole separate video to talk about our own motivations to go into medicine, so stay tuned for that.
I hope you enjoyed this video and got something positive out of it. As doctors, you will also be trained to become scientists, to not take information at face value, but to analyze it and come to your own conclusions. Apply that to this video and take something positive out of it. Click that subscribe button and stay on the lookout for another MedBoys video next Monday. I got diamonds doing pussy slides in both kids. Dice rolling on the Las Vegas strip tonight. Slip that on and we might miss the fight. Fuck a night, I keep the wallet in my shorty bag. You know she wants mine when she tattooed that ass. I'm a lover boy, she love the toys.